one of the things that differentiates you as a freelancer or as a business is doing hard things, because hard things are naturally going to filter people out. So when you talk about the long game, if you talk about like a 5K, only some certain number of people are going to do a 5K, and only a certain number of people are going to do a 20K, and only a certain number, and then some of those people are going to fall off, and some will do an Ironman. By the time you get to Ironman, it's like a really small segment of the larger segment, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea is if you're willing to do the hard thing, like that'll differentiate you and give you an advantage, and that's an opportunity for you as a freelancer or as a business. And so, but to do the hard thing, you have to be fully committed, because you ain't doing an Ironman unless you're like all in, like it's rough. So I had this idea. I was thinking about, I was listening to this podcast episode just about, there's like 5 million podcasts, and most podcasts won't reach 50 episodes. Most won't. So if you do a podcast and you reach 50 episodes, you are now, I don't know what the percentile is, let's say 20%. And if you go to 100 episodes, it drops even more. I think there are only like 100,000 out of the 5 million, only like 100,000 of the podcasts have more than 100 episodes. So and then if you keep going to 200 and 500, like it just keeps dropping. And so when I started my freelancing business, I was able to have success within a couple of years, but I really wanted to build a second business, which is the blogging, the podcasting, the books and all that. And that was my mission, was like, I'm going to play the long game. Like I'm doing this until I die, like, so I'm just going to keep going and at a sustainable rate. And I've written over 600 blog posts. I've got 150 podcast episodes or so. I've got a bunch of YouTube videos. So I'm keeping the machine going. And that's the foundation of this content creation business, is I'm just going to outrun or outwalk everyone. Because if I just walk long enough, it's that I'm going to win, if it's about who walks the longest. So that's one of the practical pieces. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I wanted to say just keep swimming from the...
From
just
Dory.
keep swimming. Just keep swimming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you got to pivot and evolve so that it's sustainable. I think those two come together, is you just keep going in a sustainable way. You keep going, and when it's not sustainable, you have to pivot. Otherwise, it'll break apart. But as long as you keep those two things in check, then I think
sometimes you got to look up from your checklist of things that you decided meant success, and you have to reevaluate. And it might turn out that you have to scrap the whole checklist.
Yeah.
In order to succeed, it might not be any of the activities, any of the actions that you've been taking so far. Success now might require you're still heading north, but the landscape has changed around you. And in order for you to be a success and to make it the long run, you have to change based on the new territory. So I think if I were going to say anything, it would be, if you haven't really thought about these things, think about them. But then if you have thought about them, when's the last time you checked in with yourself or with the people that are in your life about those things? Does everybody still feel the same way about going the long haul on those things? Is everybody, are you still in alignment? Are you in alignment with your true vision, right? Like, like if you just turned around one day as Jason and you had made 3,000 podcast episodes, but you no longer had that thriving together concept. You're like, oh, wait, I'm doing this by myself. I'm not invested. There's no community. There's no people that I'm investing in. I'm not mentoring anybody. I'm not lifting people up. Like, I'm not doing any of these things, but I reached this number of podcasts.
Yeah.
So knowing what that vision really is, having something that you can repeat to yourself over and over again, that has to remain true no matter what all the other details are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do want to give one last example, another angle of just the long game. So I've been writing this book. It's called From the Garden to the Cross. It's pretty fat.
Look at
see
that spine.
Like compared to, like, it's more.
That book ate several other books.
So it's been 4 years in the making. So it's a long game book. I thought it was going to take me 2 years, and here I am 4 years later. So, but one of the things, so there's a lot of, like, I'm really glad for all the work past Jason has done on this, because I just it's been a lot of work. I kind of passed the peak friction stage, but I'm still at a high friction piece. So this is my first proof, and I've finished my first read through, and I marked it all up, and so now I got to go through the document and do that. Well, one of the things that I did, because the highest friction, when there's a lot of friction, it's just hard. So it's like, what if I am fully committed, but there's so much friction, I'm like struggling. So what I've been doing is getting the proof was really helpful to do this specific goal. But I set a goal, like, so I'm like at church half the day on Sunday because we go to all the services. And so I started bringing this on Sunday to church. And during that second service, and I was reading through it and marking it up. And then now that I'm done, I'm going to the Google Doc on my phone and I just make all the changes. So, it's like an hour and a half every week, right? That I just created this ritual. Like, I'm going to do this. And eventually, I'll get through it. And I did. So now I got to make those changes and it'll be so on. But having that regular habit to kind of trudge through the high friction thing, once I get through this first round of revisions, the friction is just going to keep dropping, because every read through should get smoother and smoother and easier and easier. And so those friction points will be smoothed off and I'll be able to slide down the slide, super fast. And then the book's ready and I can start selling it. And so I bring that out because sometimes you do have to do something that just feels really demotivating and really hard, even though you are fully committed, but there's a way to work through that even when you don't want to. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but tell us.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to figure out how to enjoy this present iteration. Like, this might be a hard slog to get through this particular, I guess, I'm trying to think. Well, I don't know what this particular draft, right? Like this particular, I'm on draft 3, and this is easier than draft 2. But it still seems like it's going on for so long. How do I try to enjoy this process, to get myself to be present and really to make this a part of my life that I want to be living, not just a thing I have to do to get to the end result? So sometimes I have to trick myself and I have to have different, I have to change up. Where do I write the next version of this? Like just in my house, the difference between writing something brand new that I'm making a first draft of and going upstairs and getting on the couch with my laptop, and there's a completely different experience all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's
just
a good point.
Just changing my environment changed the way that I felt, and it changed the way that I felt changed what it was to do that work. And so, I mean, there's all sorts of different things that you can alter while still being consistent and sustaining over time. There are people you can bring in for this next mile that are going to run with you. Like, they can't run an Ironman because they're not built for running an Ironman, but they can come in and run that mile with you. And be alongside you and give you encouragement and those types of things. So who can you bring in for this particular difficult thing? How can you change the difficult thing so it's still getting done, but you're doing it in a way that feels at least somewhat... I'm ADHD, so things feeling novel. Like, I might, if I were doing that, I might make a print of the draft just so I could hold the book in my hands and feel the feeling of having done something. So that kicks in, and then I feel like I can continue to move forward